Here's a number they don't put in the retirement brochures. To live a modest, normal life in the United States in 2026, rent, groceries, utilities, healthcare, the basics, the average retiree needs $4,800 a month. The average Social Security check this year, $1,976. That's a $2,800 shortfall every single month for the rest of your life. And the official advice? Save more, downsize, cut back, as if trimming expenses covers a $2,800 monthly hole. Here's what nobody at the financial planning seminar will tell you. In 7 countries right now, your $2,000 Social Security check doesn't just bridge that gap, it flips the math entirely. Fully furnished apartments in historic city centers for $350 a month, private doctor visits for $15, restaurant meals every single night of the week for under $200 a month total. Retirees living bigger, eating better, saving money at the end of the month, and quietly wondering why they didn't do this a decade sooner. We found 7 of them, with 2026 data, real visa program names, exact cost breakdowns, and the honest catches, because there are always catches, and you deserve to know them before you make any decision. Stay until number 1. It's the country the mainstream retirement media refuses to seriously cover. The retirees already there are hoping you scroll right past it, and the window to get in ahead of the crowd is closing faster than you think. Before we start, a word on how this was built, because you can find 1,000 retire abroad for cheap videos with zero sourcing and a thumbnail of a beach. This list is not that. We cross-referenced Numbeo's 2026 Cost of Living Indexes, International Living's Annual Global Retirement Index, HSBC's Expat Explorer Survey data, WHO and independent healthcare quality rankings, official government visa program documentation pulled directly from each country's immigration authority, and first-hand budget reports from active expat Facebook groups and forums where real Americans, people depositing real Social Security checks, post their actual monthly spending right now. Every entry gets the good and the catch. Anything that skips the catch isn't research, it's an ad. Number 7. Albania. Specifically, a coastal town in the far south called Sarande, pronounced Sarande. Say it out loud a few times. Get comfortable with it. Because if your monthly budget is tight and your patience for tourist crowds is 0, that name might be the most important one you hear today. Albania sits on the western edge of the Balkans, with the Adriatic to the west and, just across a narrow channel of the Ionian Sea, the Greek island of Corfu visible from shore. Saranda is a small, crescent-shaped seaside town, turquoise water pressing against a promenade lined with cafes, Albanian Riviera beaches that rival anything in Greece at 1/3 the price, Roman ruins you can walk to before breakfast, and a mountain backdrop that turns deep purple at dusk. An espresso on that promenade costs 60 cents, a fresh-caught grilled fish with a glass of local wine, $6. Albania spent decades sealed off from the world under one of the most restrictive communist regimes in history, which means it entered the international tourism economy late, very late. The prices have simply not caught up to the quality. Most Americans couldn't locate Albania on a map. Almost no major retirement channel has covered it. That window will not remain open indefinitely. Language. English is widely functional among younger Albanians. in tourism-adjacent industries, and throughout Saranda's expat zones. It is not wall-to-wall English like the Philippines or Malaysia, but in daily expat life, you will not struggle constantly. Basic Albanian phrases earn enormous goodwill. Locals appreciate the effort visibly and immediately. The cost breakdown. A furnished one-bedroom near the water runs $250 to $400 a month. Monthly groceries, $120 to $150. A full restaurant meal, $5 to $8. A single retiree lives comfortably in Saranda on $900 to $1,200 a month. And comfortably does not mean bare bones. It means a sea view apartment, a daily coffee on the promenade, weekly fish dinners, and money left at the end of the month. On a $2,000 Social Security check, you are in surplus. Residency. Albania does not yet have a formal retirement visa program in the same tier as some countries on this list. However, U.S. citizens enter visa-free and can stay up to 1 year. Long-term residency through property purchase or business registration is accessible and increasingly common among expats, though it requires local legal guidance. Healthcare. Here is the honest catch, stated plainly. Albania's public healthcare system is limited. Private clinics in Saranda are affordable but not equipped for complex medical situations. Most expats carry international health insurance and use Corfu, a short ferry ride away, or Tirana, 2 hours north, for anything serious. Infrastructure outside the city center can be rough. Roads, power reliability, internet in rural areas. Albanian bureaucracy is genuinely slow and inconsistent. Anyone pursuing residency should budget patience and hire a local lawyer. The verdict. For a healthy, mobile, early retiree who wants Mediterranean Europe on a budget that hasn't caught up to the reality yet, Albania is the move. Not forever for everyone. But for the right person, right now, it may be the single most underpriced quality of life opportunity on this list. And yet, we still have 6 more, and it gets significantly better from here. Number 6, Colombia. And yes, we're going to address the reputation immediately, because pretending it doesn't exist would be worse than useless. Medellin in the 1980s and early 1990s was, by documented measurement, one of the most dangerous cities on Earth. That is historical fact. Here is also historical fact. Medellin today has been named one of the world's most innovative cities. It built aerial cable cars into hillside neighborhoods that once had no infrastructure whatsoever. It has a world-class metro system, thriving arts districts, Michelin-recognized restaurants, universities, a genuine creative tech economy, and an expat community large enough to have its own neighborhoods, its own social calendars, and its own real estate market. The transformation is real, documented, and ongoing, and none of it eliminates the need for situational awareness. Petty theft in tourist areas is a genuine risk. But violent crime against expats in established neighborhoods like El Poblado and Laureles is not the story. The story is a cosmopolitan city of 5 million people sitting at 5,000 feet above sea level. With a climate so consistently mild, it has earned a permanent nickname, the City of Eternal Spring. highs of 72 degrees Fahrenheit, almost every single day. No air conditioning needed, no heating needed, not once in the year. Language: Colombia is Spanish-speaking, and unlike several other destinations on this list, English is not pervasive outside the expat corridor. In El Poblado, you can navigate daily life comfortably. At the market, the bank, the government office, Spanish is necessary. The good news: Spanish classes in Medellin, where a private tutor costs $10 to $15 an hour, and the city itself is the immersive classroom, are a legitimate retirement hobby and social bridge into Colombian life. The cost breakdown: a furnished one-bedroom in El Poblado or Laureles rents for $400 to $600 a month. Monthly groceries: $150 to $200. A dinner at a solid local restaurant: $6 to $10. A single retiree in Medellin lives well on $1,100 to $1,500 a month. On $2,000, you have genuine discretionary income. Weekend trips to the coffee region, the Caribbean coast, and Cartagena, all reachable cheaply on domestic flights. Visa: Colombia's Migración. Colombia offers the Pensionado Visa, a retirement-specific visa requiring monthly pension income of roughly $750. The average U.S. Social Security recipient qualifies comfortably, renewable annually with a path to permanent residency. Healthcare: Colombia's healthcare system ranks among the top in Latin America. Medellin's Clínica Las Américas and Hospital Pablo Tobón Uribe are internationally regarded private facilities with English-speaking staff. A specialist consultation, $20 to $35. Important honest note: altitude affects some people. Cardiovascular and respiratory conditions deserve serious evaluation before committing. The catches: Spanish is not optional long-term, not if you want a genuinely satisfying life. Petty crime requires consistent vigilance. Visa and banking bureaucracy can be slow and confusing without professional help. And parts of Colombia carry U.S. State Department advisories that you must read carefully and stay current on, even if Medellin itself sits in a very different category. The verdict: a cosmopolitan, culturally rich, beautiful city with extraordinary food, perfect weather, the largest American expat community in South America, and a cost of living that makes $2,000 feel like genuine wealth for the retiree willing to learn the language and approach security with common sense. Number 5 is a completely different world, and it gets a little harder to believe. Number 5, Vietnam. Specifically, Da Nang, a mid-sized coastal city roughly in the middle of the country, between Hanoi in the north and Ho Chi Minh City in the south, and the city most consistently identified by foreign retirees on the ground as the most livable in Vietnam. Most Americans associate Vietnam with either the war or the moped-choked chaos of its major cities. Da Nang is neither. It's a modern, clean, genuinely well-organized city of 1.3 million, flanked by some of the most breathtaking coastline in Southeast Asia. My Cay Beach, a 6-mile arc of white sand and calm surf, runs directly alongside the urban grid. The Marble Mountains rise just south. The perfectly preserved ancient trading port of Hoi An, a UNESCO heritage town full of silk lanterns, tailors, and extraordinary street food, is 30 minutes down the road. The former imperial capital of Hue is an hour north. Da Nang is not a destination you get trapped in. It's a base with everything around it. Language. Vietnamese is the official language and is not easy for English speakers to acquire. In Da Nang's expat neighborhoods, tourist corridors, and international restaurants, English is increasingly functional. Daily life, the wet market, the local pharmacy, the government office, requires patience, a translation app, and a willingness to gesture. It is manageable. It is not effortless. The cost breakdown. A furnished one-bedroom in a good Da Nang neighborhood, $250 to $400 a month. Monthly groceries, $100 to $140. A full restaurant meal, and in Da Nang that means pho mi quang ben mi, fresh spring rolls made by people whose families have been making them for generations, $3 to $6. A single retiree lives well in Da Nang on $800 to $1,200 a month. On $2,000, you are living in a way that would cost $6,000 to $8,000 in the United States. That comparison is not hyperbole, it is arithmetic. Visa. This is the legitimate complication, stated plainly. Vietnam does not currently have a formal long-term retirement visa. U.S. citizens receive 45 visa-free days. Long-term expats typically use an e-visa, agent-arranged business visas, or DT investor visas. Vietnam has been discussing a formal retirement visa for years. As of 2026, it has not been implemented. This situation requires monitoring and a Vietnam-based immigration lawyer if you're serious about it. Healthcare. The Dana Medical Center and Family Medical Practice in Da Nang offer English-language private care at prices that reframe your understanding of what healthcare costs. A general consultation, $15 to $25. For complex procedures, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City have more comprehensive international hospital infrastructure. The catches. Tropical heat and humidity are significant. Da Nang averages 86 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. Typhoon season runs September through November and can bring serious storms. Vietnam's broader political context, a single-party state with press restrictions, is a reality to understand before planting roots, and the visa situation is genuine uncertainty that every serious candidate needs to research currently. The verdict: jaw-dropping natural beauty, one of the great food cultures on Earth at prices that shouldn't be possible, and a quality of life on $1,000 a month that would cost 8 times as much in the US, for the retiree who can navigate some visa ambiguity and embrace life in a very different cultural current. Number 4 is much closer to home in every sense. Mérida, pronounced Meh-Rida, the capital of the Yucatan state in southeastern Mexico, and arguably the single most underrated retirement destination in the entire country. Most Americans who retire to Mexico gravitates toward beach towns, Pacific Coast, Caribbean coast, the usual. Mérida doesn't have the beach directly. The Gulf of Mexico is a 45-minute drive. What it has is something far more sustainable for daily life over years and decades. It has been named the safest large city in Mexico for multiple consecutive years. It has a walkable colonial grid of lime-washed buildings that gives the city its name. The White City, open-air markets, world-class museums, a Mayan cultural heritage visible in the markets, the food, the faces, and every neighborhood. It has 4 major international caliber hospitals. It has a genuine functioning economy with a real middle class and real infrastructure. And it has an American and Canadian expat community, tens of thousands of people who discovered it, loved it, and stayed. The ones who come back to visit the US frequently note the same thing. They miss Merida. Language. Spanish is the language of daily life here, and while English is accessible in the expat district and among professionals, you will need functional Spanish sooner than in some other destinations on this list. The expat community is large enough that the social and logistical infrastructure to help new arrivals exists in organized form. Language schools, bilingual real estate agents, relocation consultants who specialize in American arrivals. The cost breakdown. A furnished one-bedroom in a good neighborhood rents for $400 to $650 a month. A colonial-style two-bedroom with a private courtyard, $700 to $900. Monthly groceries at a mix of local markets and supermarkets, $150 to $200. A full comida corrida, the Mexican set lunch, typically the main meal of the day, soup, entree, juice, dessert, $6 to $10 at a quality local spot. A single retiree lives comfortably in Merida on $1,200 to $1,600 a month. On $2,000, you have discretionary income, regular weekend trips to cenotes, Mayan archaeological sites scattered across the Yucatan, and the Gulf Coast 45 minutes away. Visa. Mexico's Residente Temporal Visa for retirees requires demonstrating monthly income of approximately $1,620. A standard Social Security check qualifies. After 4 years of temporal residency, you are eligible for permanent residency with no income verification requirement at renewal. And Mexico's proximity to the United States, a 2-hour flight from Houston or Miami, is not a small thing. Medical tourism back to the US for specific procedures is logistically feasible. Visiting family is not a 20-hour odyssey. Healthcare. Merida has 4 major private hospitals with English-speaking medical staff and modern equipment. The cost of care is a fraction of the US. Specialist consultations in the $25 to $40 range. Procedures at 60 to 75% below American pricing. The catch is, Merida is genuinely hot. June through September. Temperatures regularly exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit with compounding humidity. Most expats live predominantly air-conditioned lives during those months. Budget the electricity accordingly. Mexico's broader political and security landscape requires ongoing awareness, even if Merida's own safety record is excellent. Banking as a non-citizen can be cumbersome. And if you specifically want beachfront living, Merida is not that. It is a city, a beautiful and functional one, but the beach requires a drive. The verdict: real infrastructure, colonial beauty, Mayan history, extraordinary food, proximity to the US, and an established expat community in the safest large city in Mexico for a retiree who wants a genuinely urban life rather than a resort town and who's willing to learn Spanish to fully inhabit it. And yet, we've only just reached the top half of this list. Number 3. Ecuador, specifically the highland city of Cuenca, pronounced Cuenca, a UNESCO World Heritage Site sitting in the Andes at 8,300 feet above sea level, and a city that has appeared on International Living's Best Places to Retire list more consistently than almost anywhere else in the world. There are reasons for that, and most of them still hold in 2026. Cuenca is genuinely beautiful in a way that feels disproportionate to what it costs. Renaissance domes and Gothic spires rise above cobblestone streets. The colonial architecture has been preserved almost entirely intact. 4 rivers run through the city. The Andes frame the horizon on 3 sides. On a clear morning, mountains showing, cathedrals glowing, the flower market spilling into the plaza, it looks like something a painter from the 17th century invented in a dream. And then you look at the rent. Ecuador does something no other country on this list does. It uses the US dollar as its official currency, not a currency pegged to the dollar. The literal US dollar. There is no exchange rate risk, no currency volatility, no mental math at the checkout. What's in your account is what you spend. For a retiree living on a fixed dollar income, that is not a small thing. It is fundamental stability. Language: Spanish is the language of daily life. The good news: Cuenca has one of the largest and most organized American expat communities in Latin America, estimated at more than 10,000 Americans, with established language schools, bilingual service providers, and a social infrastructure built specifically around the transition. The cost breakdown: a furnished 1-bedroom in the historic center or a popular expat neighborhood like El Baton, $350 to $550 a month. Monthly groceries: $150 to $200. A full set lunch, soup, entree, fresh juice, dessert, at a quality local restaurant, $3 to $4. That is not a typo. A single retiree lives comfortably in Cuenca on $1,100 to $1,500 a month. On $2,000, you have substantial surplus, enough to travel regularly to the Galapagos Islands, the Pacific Coast, and the Amazon, all domestically accessible. Visa. Ecuador's Jubilado Visa, the pensioner visa, requires monthly pension income of just $800. The average U.S. Social Security check is nearly $200 over that threshold. The visa is renewable annually with a pathway to permanent residency, and the process, while requiring documentation, is well established and well trodden by the large expat community. Healthcare: Cuenca's Hospital Monte Sinai and Clínica Santa Ana are both well-regarded private facilities with English-speaking staff and modern diagnostic equipment. A specialist consultation: $20 to $40. Numerous American retirees living there report faster, more attentive care than they ever received in the United States, without insurance pre-approval, without referral chains, without months of waiting. The catches: altitude is real and cannot be minimized. 8,300 feet significantly affects some people. Fatigue, headaches, shortness of breath, and cardiovascular strain in the first weeks are common. Anyone with heart or pulmonary conditions needs to spend substantial time in Cuenca before making any commitment. Spanish is not optional for a genuinely satisfying daily life. Petty theft has increased as Cuenca's popularity has grown. And Ecuador's national political environment has seen instability in recent years. Cuenca itself remains calm, but broader national uncertainty is worth factoring into any long-term planning. The verdict: US dollar stability, UNESCO-level architecture, a mature and organized expat community, world-class private healthcare, an $800 pensioner visa threshold, and a total monthly budget that leaves $500 to $900 of a $2,000 Social Security check untouched, for the retiree who can handle altitude and is willing to learn Spanish to access the full depth of what Cuenca offers. Number 2 might surprise you. Number 1 will. And if you've been half dismissing this because it sounds exotic or far away, I need you to stay with me for about 2 minutes, because the argument here is unusually strong and most people undersell it. The Philippines is a nation of more than 7,640 islands spread across the Western Pacific. It is not one destination. It is a world unto itself. White sand beaches that rival anywhere on Earth, world-class scuba diving that draws instructors from every continent, rice terraces carved by hand into Cordillera mountain slopes 2,000 years ago, and modern cities with international hospitals, shopping malls, international restaurants, and fast urban internet. And at the center of it, geographically, culturally, practically, sits Cebu. Here's the history that explains the culture. The Philippines was an American territory from 1898 to 1946, nearly 50 years. American culture wove itself into Filipino life so thoroughly that its traces are visible everywhere. In the music, the architecture, the food habits, the deep and specific familiarity with American customs and holidays. Filipinos don't merely tolerate Americans, they like Americans, with a warmth that is genuine, particular, and felt by virtually every expat who has spent serious time there. That cultural alignment is not a small thing when you're building a new life. And then there's the language. English is one of 2 official languages of the Philippines. Every government document, every school class, every hospital form available in English. You can arrive knowing 0 Filipino and live the rest of your life there without ever needing to learn it. That is not an exaggeration. That is the daily, lived reality of thousands of American retirees right now. The visa. This is where the Philippines separates itself from almost every other country on this list. The Special Resident Retiree Visa, the SRRV, is administered by the Philippine Retirement Authority and grants the right to live in the Philippines indefinitely, with no annual renewal requirement and multiple entry privileges. And this is the part most coverage skips. SRRV holders receive government-mandated discounts on hotels, transportation, restaurants, entertainment, and medical services. The Philippine government built formal financial rewards for retiring there directly into the legal code. No other country on this list does that. The cost breakdown in Cebu City, a modern, walkable city with excellent hospitals, a large international expat community, solid infrastructure, and a beach 20 minutes away, a single retiree lives well on $950 to $1,300 a month. Not barely. Well, a modern, air-conditioned 1-bedroom in a safe expat neighborhood, $300 to $500. A full restaurant meal with a drink, $4 to $7. A specialist consultation at a private hospital with an English-speaking doctor, $20 to $35. On $2,000, you have discretionary income, island hopping weekends, travel throughout the archipelago, and money left over. The catches: typhoons are real. The Philippines sits in one of the most active storm corridors on Earth, roughly 20 per year, with 8 to 9 making direct landfall. Cebu and the Central Visayas are less exposed than the eastern islands, but no location in the Philippines is fully immune. Property insurance and typhoon preparedness are not optional. Certain parts of the country, specifically parts of Mindanao in the south, carry active U.S. State Department advisories. These are geographically distinct from where most expats live, but you need to know the map. Urban traffic and air quality in congested areas are real daily quality of life factors. And SRRV processing through the Philippine Retirement Authority can move slowly, budget time, and hire a reliable local agent. The verdict: English everywhere, extraordinary natural beauty, deep, specific cultural warmth toward Americans, a government-backed retirement visa with real, codified financial incentives, a cost of living that makes $2,000 feel like genuine wealth. The Philippines is a complete package, and one of the most compelling arguments for retiring abroad you can make to someone who is genuinely nervous about it. The English alone changes everything, and yet, number one exists, and it's not close. Number one, Malaysia. Specifically Penang, an island state off the northwestern coast of the Malaysian peninsula, connected to the mainland by 2 bridges and separated from the serious attention of the mainstream retirement media by a gap that is genuinely hard to explain. Let me try to close it with a few questions. What if there was a city with a UNESCO World Heritage Historic District, Georgetown, full of centuries-old Chinese shophouses, Indian temples, colonial British architecture, hand-painted street murals, lantern-lit night markets, and cafes that have been serving the same recipes since the 1920s? What if the beaches were 20 minutes from the city center? What if the private hospitals were internationally accredited, staffed by doctors trained in the UK, Australia, and the United States, and charged you $30 for a specialist consultation that costs $300 in America, with no insurance pre-approval, no referral chain, no 6-week wait? What if the food, the hawker stalls, the outdoor courts where generations-old recipes are cooked fresh under string lights every night for $1, $50 to $3 a dish, had been ranked by multiple international publications as among the best on the entire planet? What if a fully furnished, air-conditioned, modern, one-bedroom apartment in a safe, walkable neighborhood cost $400 a month? All of that is Penang. And a single retiree there lives an extraordinary life, not a frugal one, an extraordinary one, on $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Language: Malaysia was a British colony, independent since 1957. English is the second official language, used in government, law, business, and education. In Penang specifically, where 3 major ethnic communities, Malay, Chinese, and Indian, have coexisted for centuries and use English as the shared tongue between them, you encounter English on menus, street signs, at the bank, at the doctor, and in casual conversations between strangers. You will never feel linguistically stranded, not once. The costs break down in full. Rent for a quality furnished one-bedroom $400 to $650 a month. A two-bedroom with a city or sea view, $800 to $1,000. Monthly groceries at the wet market and supermarket combined, $100 to $150. Transportation, most expats walk, use the Grab app, or own a basic scooter, $40 to $80 a month. Healthcare, a specialist consultation at Gleneagles Penang or Penang Adventist Hospital, $25 to $40. An MRI, $150 to $250. Common procedures, 70 to 80% below US costs, with wait times measured in hours rather than weeks. Total monthly budget for a single retiree living well, not surviving, living well, $1,200 to $1,500. On a $2,000 Social Security check, you have $500 left over every month to save, to travel, to use however you choose. Visa. The Malaysia My Second Home program, MM2H, is the long-term residency visa designed specifically for foreign retirees, running for over 20 years, with tens of thousands of foreigners, including thousands of Americans, having used it to build full lives here. It is the established, legitimate pathway and Penang's expat infrastructure with organized community groups, relocation specialists, and legal agents who handle MM2H specifically exists to help you navigate it. Healthcare. Penang has several internationally accredited private hospitals, Gleneagles, Penang Adventist, Island Hospital, staffed by specialists trained in the UK, Australia, and the US. Gleneagles Penang holds Joint Commission International accreditation. International Living, HSBC, and independent healthcare quality indexes consistently rank Malaysian private healthcare among the best in Asia. Wait times that would be measured in months in the American system are measured in hours here. The gap in cost is almost insulting by comparison. The honest catches, because we always tell you the catches, the heat. Penang sits between 85 and 92 degrees Fahrenheit virtually every day, with humidity that compounds it. Most expats acclimatize within a few months. Some with cardiac or respiratory conditions genuinely struggle and never fully adjust. This is the single most important thing to test before committing. Spend real time there first. The MM2H program underwent a significant overhaul in 2021 that raised financial requirements substantially. Requirements may continue to evolve. Get current information from a verified local agent before planning around any specific threshold. Alcohol is heavily taxed in Malaysia, making beer and wine noticeably more expensive than the rest of Southeast Asia, a real quality of life consideration depending on your habits. Malaysian immigration bureaucracy can be inconsistent and slow. A local MM2H lawyer is strongly recommended, not a suggestion. And Penang is being discovered. Rental prices in expat-preferred neighborhoods are moving upward. The window where $1,500 buys you extraordinary rather than merely comfortable may not stay open indefinitely. But add it all up: language, safety, infrastructure, food. Hawker culture ranked among the world's best, at prices that are almost philosophically confusing. World-class, internationally accredited private healthcare at 25 cents on the dollar. A UNESCO heritage city with beaches 20 minutes away. A stable, established residency program with a genuine support ecosystem, a total monthly budget that sits inside $1,500, leaving a meaningful surplus from a $2,000 check every single month. International Living, HSBC, Forbes, and the Global Retirement Index have all recognized Penang. The thousands of Americans who live there have voted with their feet, their leases, and the fact that almost none of them come back. That is number one. It is not close. Seven countries, seven completely different lives, all of them inside a $2,000 social security check. Let's run it back fast. Albania, Mediterranean Europe, before anyone else finds it, under $1,200 a month, the window, real, and tightening. Colombia, the city of eternal spring with a reputation that no longer matches reality, a pensioner visa accessible to most Social Security recipients, and 72 degrees Fahrenheit every single day. Vietnam, jaw-dropping coastline, one of the great food cultures on Earth, $1,000 a month, and a visa situation worth tracking carefully. Mexico, the safest large city in the country, colonial beauty, Mayan heritage, proximity to the US, and a social security check that qualifies for residency with room to spare. Ecuador, the US dollar literally, a UNESCO city that looks painted, world-class private care, and an $800 pensioner visa threshold that almost any social security recipient clears. The Philippines, English everywhere, 7,640 islands, a government-backed retirement visa with real codified discounts, and a warmth toward Americans that is specific, genuine, and documented. And Penang, Malaysia, the food, the healthcare, the UNESCO heritage, the language, the infrastructure, the community, the surplus at the end of every month, nothing else on this list comes close. The world is wider than you think, and in 7 countries right now, the arithmetic that has been working against you your entire career finally, completely, works in your favor. But here's the part we haven't covered. Not every destination abroad is a safe landing. Some countries that looked perfect on lists 2 or 3 years ago have changed, politically, economically, in terms of how they treat American expats. Some retirement visa programs that were open are quietly closing. Some places are rolling out the welcome mat. Others have started pulling it back. We've done that research too. The destinations where American retirees are running into real trouble in 2026, the countries where the math looks right but the ground situation has shifted, that's the next video. It's already on your screen. And if you're seriously considering any move abroad, it is the one to watch before you ever book a flight.